Hello everyone, welcome to the semi-finals of Pro Tour Theros 2013. Oh my gods, it is a great Magic set right now for Standard. You are going to begin with Makihita Mihara of Japan up against Jeremy Dezani of France. And Dezani on the right will lead off straight away in game one with an island and one of his signature cards, Cloudfin Raptor. And Mihara straight into action with one of his perfect openings, Elvish Mystic, getting him extra mana as quickly as humanly possible. BDM, what are we looking for here in this game?
Nykthos Shrine to Nyx from Makihito Mihara. And really Master of Waves on the other side of the table.
Yeah, and Dezani does have basically his perfect draw of Cloudfin Raptor into Tidebinder Mage with Master of Waves in hand. But Mihara's got a good one too, since even though his turn 1 elf got locked down, he still has turn 2 Emissary into Voyaging Satyr.
Yeah, there's a lot of mana already on the table on the left. Tim Willoughby said in the halftime show he can get to incredible amounts of mana very, very fast, and he has lots to do with it.
And worth noting, he doesn't only need that mana to come from Nykthos. Xenagos the Reveler is capable of jumping him up in mana as well. And Garrett Caller of Beast, while it doesn't really produce mana, it saves you mana by letting you put creatures into play for free.
Right, and this is definitely the best Xenagos deck. Like, we tested this deck too, and Xenagos was good in the mono red deck we played, but it's by far better in this deck, since this deck has a ton of creatures and can use the mana that Xenagos produces very effectively.
You see a Judge's Familiar added to the board on Dezani's side. That sacrifices to counter an instant or sorcery, which, as we discovered in the quarterfinals, isn't going to happen very often, brackets, never in game one at least. Mihara is all about the creatures and the Planeswalkers.
A card we've seen be best against Advent of the Worm.
So, bit of extra mana. Here's Polukranos World Eater for Makihita Mihara.
Ready for the noms.
And he plays it before attacking, I guess, to play around maybe a Disperse on his Voyaging Satyr mid-combat.
Right.
But I think the Disperse is headed elsewhere here, since if Dezani wants to cast Master of Waves, he's got to have to bounce the Polukranos end of turn.
And we see that he is holding a Tidebinder range, but as you pointed out, that's not quite good enough against Polukranos, since it's going to be able to shoot things down.
Yeah, I mean, he can play a Master here and make 5 tokens, but he's still under kind of a clock, since Polukranos does come out and eventually just wipe his whole board. So it's going to grow the Cloudfin Raptor. He gets to hit for 5 here, and this is actually a pretty significant amount of pressure. I think attacking with the Burning Tree Emissary may not have been what Mihara ended up wanting to do.
Yep, Mihara will fall from 16 well down towards lethal potential range, down at 11 now. Looks like he's drawn another Polukranos there.
Yeah, we can take a look at his hand.
So I think Mihara's actually just about dead here, since he can't remove the Master this turn. He can block a couple creatures here, but the Master of Waves makes 10 additional power on the board here. And that leaves 11, so Mihara might actually just be dead here.
And so if he hadn't attacked, he would be at 13.
He'd be at 13. He'd be able to muster up 2 blockers and take, I think, just 11. So I think not attacking may have bought him enough time to, at the very least, have an attempt at coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think now then he's going to have a tough time of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of expensive stuff going on there in Mihara's hand. Garruk at 6, Xenagos at 4, Polukranos both at 4. And when he's doing one thing a turn and Jeremy's going so wide with all the tokens, it's an uphill struggle.
Yeah, and even though Scavenging Ooze would actually just about do it, or to keep Mihara alive, I think he can play that and block 3 creatures now, and then that just puts him in a much worse position next turn.
Scavenging Ooze from Mihara comes down.
So he can block 3 creatures, but one needs to be in the graveyard in order to let him live through the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
second Master of Waves makes this. I don't think that was necessary, but I think it makes it not close, just in case Dizani was worried. Dizani certainly has mastered the waves here since at this point you have to block 3 tokens and you take 13 damage. So it looks like even had he not attacked with Burning Tree Emissary, he still would be pretty much done for this turn.
Sir, her spells smash. And it comes from Jeremy Dizani. It's all the boys. Oh, apart from the many creatures he can't attack with this turn, and sweep them up 1-0. Jeremy Dizani in very, very quick time. We're going to stay with this one, by the way. We're going to have a look at game 2, see whether Mihara can even things up. And guys, time to get your thinking caps on, because we're going to take a look at the players' sideboards and get a sense of maybe how this match will shape up moving forward. Right. And that's what the players are about to do. They're going to reach for their 15 potential All-Stars with a view to coming in. Mihara, of course, as we said, has only creatures and planeswalkers in his main deck. That may change once we go post-board. And Dizani, again, 15 to work with. And as now you see on the right of your screen, him reaching for those 15 and starts to look at what he's got on offer. Was that a fairly typical game 1, Luis, do you reckon?
It was pretty close to Dizani's best draw possible, and it was a Nykthos off of Mihara's, which put Dizani ahead. Also, being on the play that game was enormous.
Here is the sideboard for Makihita Mihara. A single Mistcutter Hydra, Wasteland Viper. There's some cool stuff with that. Then you've got Destructive Revelry, 3 Mizium Mortars, a couple of Burning Earth, Chandra Pyromancer, Pyromaster, Nylea's Disciple, extra copy of Xenaghost the Reveler, and Sylvan Primordial. What do you reckon there, Luis?
Well, the Mistcutter Hydra seems almost assuredly a lock, since it has protection from Dizani's deck. Past that, I would expect the Mortars, and probably the Nylea's Disciple as well, since Mihara said he was boarding it in a lot.
He's bringing it all the time.
It also is just good, because Dizani's not removing cards from Mihara's side of the board, so just playing it and gaining like 7 life really does a lot.
Do you like the Wasteland Viper at all? I mean,
I don't love it, no.
It's not super tough creatures, so you don't really need the machine gun effect.
No.
If you're going to be able to activate Polukranos, you're probably going to be able to already take out 2 or 3 guys.
Polukranos doesn't need the help, and Dizani does not have that many flying attackers or non-flying attackers that Mihara has to worry about.
Right. So that's Mihara there, and we'll get a sense of what Jeremy Dizani is going to do next with 2 Jace Architect of Thought, a spare Mutavault, a couple of Ratchet Bombs, 3 Negate, 3 Wall of Frost, a couple of Aetherling, 1 Pithing Needle, and Triton Tactics. I love Triton Tactics, just as a card, not necessarily here, but what do you reckon we do here?
This one's actually a little trickier, since I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. Like, you could bring in the Needle for Garruk. You could bring in Ratchet Bomb to try to clear out some of Mihara's accelerants.
The smaller creatures, yeah. But you could bring in Triton Tactics if you're worried about Mizium Mortars.
Yeah, I mean, since that is a card that Mihara is probably bringing in as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some combination of these things come in, especially for maybe something like Judge's Familiar, just because that's really only good on the Bident plan. But without having playtested the matchup, it is not quite as obvious as, Mistcutter Hydra coming in.
How do you like Negate in terms of dealing with... I mean, Garruk is apparently a very key card for Mihara, and...
I like Needle a lot more if that's what you're worried about. Just because you're able to Needle Garruk proactively instead of keeping mana up for Negate.
Sure.
But... Wall of Frost, we saw that getting brought in against Camille when Camille playing the Mono Red Devotion deck. But I think that since Mihara is more worried about going big and attacking with giant Polucranoses and like Arbor Colossi, then I don't think Wall of Frost is actually going to do what you want here.
Well, while these 2 players are sideboarding, I can tell you that the back table is sideboarding as well. It was a race in the air between Pierre Dajon of France and Sam Black of the United States, and it's advantage France on both tables now, because Pierre Dajon won that race in the air and leads Sam Black by 1-0.
Madness.
I wonder if they were being considerate to the commentators and decided to get the quarterfinal or semifinals over in like 15 minutes. Since these decks are not slow. I mean,
no.
Not only can Mihara play 20 power or 20 mana worth of cards on turn 3 or 4, the mono blue decks can have 20 power worth of Master of Waves tokens out on turn 5.
He's still not playing in this top 8, but both times Yamamoto has been in the top 8 of a Pro Tour, things have progressed pretty quickly. in the matches.
Yeah, so that
and not in his favor.
yeah, that went back all the way to 2007 because he was teammate. Who was he with? Teammating with?
He was Yuta Takahashi.
Ah, right. Okay, King of the Fairies, as we used to call him, because he was always playing fairies when that was legal in standard and everything else, pretty much. Won a couple of GPs with that, and they made the final of Pro Tour San Diego, and they were on camera for about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a pre-production meeting with you, Brian David Marshall, and you said, by the way, just so you know, it's going to be the shortest final ever. I guarantee it. And everyone was like, really? Oh, no, it won't be, will it? And you went like, it could be 4 minutes. And you were a couple of minutes out.
You were 50% off. That's a pretty wide margin.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to be impressed, but he's telling you something.
That's fair.
Yeah. So here we go.
2 minutes would have been a much, bolder call.
So Mahara is looking at an opening hand.
He's got to nick those.
He does indeed.
Doesn't look like he has a ton of green mana necessarily, though.
Yeah, and a reminder that Nykthos doesn't produce colored mana. It's a lot of mana. Well, initially it's like you need your devotion. So let's see where he ends up. He's going to just send it away.
I think keeping a hand without green mana, unless he had a Burning Tree Emissary hiding in there, which he apparently did not, is going to be a pretty tough sell. You can backdoor Nykthos into the other colors of mana, though.
Yeah,
Burning Tree Emissary, certainly is like
sure.
kind of the key for that. But yeah, by itself, Mountain Nykthos casts exactly like 2 spells in his deck.
Yeah, not super exciting.
And playing against a blue deck, that's also something that can get disrupted.
Yeah. I mean, he does have to, put at least some thought into what design he's going to be doing. Like if he goes Burning Tree Emissary into a Voyaging Satyr or Elvish Mystic and it gets locked down by Tidebinder, he's still without green mana.
So Dazani will shuffle up Mahara's opening for game 2. And Mahara here trying to avoid consecutive semi-final Pro Tour defeats.
There are worse fates,
Yeah,
but
Yes, there really. What, like 1 and 5 on day 1, for example?
yeah, or having to be stuck in the booth with you two every Sunday. So.
Oh.
But whose fault is that? No. It looks like Mihara's ready to do some stomping here.
Yeah. So here we go. Makihito Mahara leads off with Stomping Ground. He doesn't have a turn 1 play.
We've been over that ground before.
Here we have. Ooh, and the judges' familiars are in.
I hate both of you. Judges Familiar for Dazani. Sylvan Carrier did for Mahara, so that's his first piece of acceleration.
And conveniently immune to Tidebinder Mage. So now he gets to play a turn 3 Polukranos, and Dazani is not nearly in the same place as he was last game. He's not disperse, attack you, kill you. It's Polukranos, what do I do now?
Right. Yeah, because the Caryatid has hexproof, you can't tap it down with the Tidebinder Mage.
It is green, but not targetable.
Yeah.
And, we're all thankful it has Defender. Otherwise, it would be growing some cloaks and various other weapons of war and attacking in.
I think we call that a good design decision,
Yeah.
that one. There you see Frostburn. Weird. And Mahara says, here is my World Eater.
Well, we can see where this game is headed. Though Nightveil Spectre does have 3 toughness, so
Let's take a look at what these guys are.
it is a little more difficult. Though Mihara does have Amizium Mortars, so given that he's got a Polukranos, which does a fair bit of crowd control by itself, I would not be surprised if he just mortars away Nightveil Spectre just on site here. Though Dazani also does have a Thassa, so he's got a number of decent plays here. Tidebinder Mage is a temporary enough solution that it's not great to Tidebinder Mage down a Polukranos, so I'd expect him to play a 3-drop here.
Right, play a Thassa and hope to be able to attack with it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then next turn he gets at least a hit in when he plays Nightveil, even if Nightveil ends up dying later. Mihara's still really looking for that Nykthos.
They've been pretty shy in the top 8 so far. We've not seen a lot of them, other than in hands that make you mulligan.
Well, I mean, he's the only deck that's playing 4 of them.
Camille was, but
Yeah.
he is no longer with
Now.
us.
Yeah, I meant of
He's
contending players.
He's actually, there's only 5 Nykthoses left in the tournament,
Yeah,
right?
Dazani has one.
Yeah, Sam Black, I think, actually has 1.
Sam has one.
Oh,
the
yeah.
French,
Sam
the French
has
team
one.
decided not to play it.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, Mortar's there is not that the Frostburn Weird is a huge threat, but Thassa is, so Mihara wants to do as much as he can to keep Thassa from being active.
But we know there's a Night Veil Spectre on the horizon here.
And Night Veil Spectre will allow Thassa to attack. Of course, chump blocking with Voyaging Satyr is not the worst here. The fact that Thassa can make herself unblockable once Dizani untaps is pretty important. Dizani's deciding whether to keep or not, and he actually kept a non-land, which is surprising because there aren't that many he would keep, but it looked like it was a Disperse, because in a race, Disperse is one of his best cards.
So here's Night Veil Spectre, Devotion achievement unlocked, as it were, and in comes the rest of the team.
And worth noting, Luis, that if you pump a ton of mana into Polychronos and it gets dispersed in response,
It never becomes monstrous.
It never becomes monstrous.
Yeah.
Something that maybe isn't always intuitively clear.
Yeah.
Here comes Domri Raid for Makihita Mihara.
Go away.
Instantly killing the Night Veil Spectre.
Yeah.
And the judge is familiar as well. Mihara's not going to risk the monstrous ability getting disrupted, so this clocks Dizani down to 9 and puts 6/6 and a Domri into play. And Thassa's really far away from getting Devotion here.
Yeah. Dizani will send away.
There is no Drowning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, which I think we're all thankful for.
I wonder if they made it.
So,
No, but here it comes.
well, hitting the 4th land and 2 blue 2-drops actually means that Dizani's right back in this.
Yeah,
Now Pelucranos gets locked down.
Frostburn Weird and High-Minded Mage, and now here's Thassa going again.
So Mihara actually needs top deck now.
Back and forth we go, and Mihara down to 3. That looked like a Nykthos.
That did look like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx.
Nykthos definitely helps. So plusing Domri, if he hits a Burning Tree Emissary here, things are going to get wild.
He did not.
No.
It's 1, 2.
So he has
3,
enough
4,
to
5.
play a second copy of Pelucranos and then eat the Tidebinder Mage with the first copy, or with the new copy of Pelucranos, I believe. Yeah. So he could actually play the other Pelucranos first. No, that doesn't help because he can't have both play at the same time.
Yeah. This is 5 mana.
Though it's not necessary. So he's going to have to play the Pelucranos and then.
Right. He doesn't actually get any extra mana because.
No, I think he's actually still in trouble here since he can eat the Tidebinder Mage, but Thassa can just make Frostburn Weird unblockable.
So he untaps the Nykthos.
The Nykthos. So he gets to make a lot more mana. So now he gets to make up to another 7. So still not quite enough to kill both creatures, unfortunately.
No, it's still just 5. It's still just 5 because the first Pelucranos was
yeah, well,
away.
5 plus the 2 he's got untapped and the 1 he has floating. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. 7 with the carry added and the 1 floating.
Right, but either way, Thassa's ability to just make Frostburn Weird unblockable and attack for 3 is still active here. So Mihara can pass with being able to shoot for 2. So actually, he just needs to pass now. He needs to just not do anything, let Dizani try to go for the kill, and then he can kill one of Dizani's creatures and turn off Thassa mid-combat. So this is the Nykthos was exactly what he needed to draw there.
Land for Dizani.
Right, this is where Disperse shines, though.
Right, he can disperse, and then the Tidebinder Mage gets shot down, and so that's not
Well, he can. Oh, right.
quite. So no, he can actually just make Thassa unblockable and then attack, and then once Pelucranos gets used, then cast Disperse in response. So the fact that he's able to find a Disperse a few turns early makes Dizani pretty happy at this point.
And Dizani walks away from the table.
Yeah, it looks like he wants.
Consult with the judge.
Well, you don't want to get it wrong about the Pelucranos
Yeah,
thing,
it's
do
probably
you?
come up before, but
He's like, people have been talking about this idea that if the creature isn't there, it doesn't work. Is that true?
You see Jürgen Bett, one of the high-level judges from the European Grand Prix scene and multiple Pro Tours. So they'll just confirm what's going on there. See Toby Elliott down on the floor, one of the level 5s, regularly head judges Pro Tours. You can be certain that Mihara knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, Mihara, if he, he's probably not too happy about the situation since if Dizani does have the disperse, then he's going to be up 2 games in a second here.
I wonder if anyone in the top 8 of a Pro Tour has sort of brought the judges over and said, hey guys, what do you think I should do?
You've definitely seen people go to ask the judge something as a sort of semi-bluff.
Yeah, what was the story? It was someone called a judge, asked, can I ask you a question? They come back, okay, it works. Python Needle naming Birds of Paradise, go. But Python Needle doesn't stop mana abilities, and his opponent just did never tap the bird for me. So, I mean... You have to be careful about how you word things.
Yes,
there.
yeah.
But it was something along
Words
the lines
mean
of,
things.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Python Needle naming birds, go. Sonny's like, all right, do I win? The judge is like, yeah, I think you're going to win.
Yeah, and a nice gesture there from Design. Like, sorry about that. Just wanted to, get all my ducks in a row.
Make sure you're dead.
Yeah.
It's really just checking.
Yeah.
Seeing who I should send the flowers to. It's like, do you have the postal code? I don't have got the address. I didn't get the postal code for those flowers.
So now head judge Riccardo Tessitore of Italy comes in to just confirm what's happening.
Oh. Okay, so this is a case of Dizani needing to ask the right question to the judge. The judge cannot give strategic advice.
Right, and what we just were described was it sounded like he asked whether if I bounce Pelucranos in response to Monstrous triggering, which is not the same as the Monstrous being activated,
right,
will the damage still be dealt? The answer is yes. Once the counter gets placed on Pelucranos, he will deal the damage even if he gets bounced in response to that trigger. So Dizani might actually think that what he wants to do will not work.
Because the judges can't clarify your question for you.
No, they can just answer straight up the question you asked them.
Yeah, and the reason for that is, if you think about it, if you're thinking, surely they would be helpful, well, the answer is that potentially they say, if you want to win, this is how you do it.
But
So
it looks like
obviously
Dizani is going for it anyway. So.
All right. So here we go. Make Thassa unblockable. Thassa comes in. Mahara will activate. And then response, and there he goes. And Mahara's like, yep, there we go. I'm done. And
So you could have just asked me, I would have told you.
yeah. And that is 2-0 to Jeremy Dizani of France. He's 1 game away from the Pro Tour final. We are going to head to the back table, which is Sam Black against Pierre Dajon. And on our way there, why don't we take a look at the top 10 European finishers, because certainly highlighted by France, they've had a terrific week. In fact, let's go with Americans. We've got 2 in the top 8. Sam Black still going. Paul Rietzel there. And we'll sort of check in on those in a moment. Here are your Europeans with all the pretty flags. The top 10 Americans, we didn't want to give you the same flag all the way. Jeremy Dizani there, Wafata Badajol, the 3 Frenchmen, plus Camille Cornelissen in the top 8. And some real European talent on show there. Yaklowski, Zatlkai, Nico Boni back in the top 16. Nice to see him there, former team world champion. Kai, of course, from Team Star City. And well done, Alexei Shasov. He won, if memory serves, the St. Petersburg PTQ to make his debut here. 19th place, top 32 on debut is a great thing.
Well, and to go to your first Pro Tour and string it into your second Pro Tour is really the dream when you finally win that Pro Tour qualifier.
Definitely.
I mean, you're a Hall of Famer, and you weren't able to do that
Yeah, I mean, my first Pro Tour, I made day 2 and then didn't make any money. So, by definition, I was not qualified for the next Pro Tour based on that finish.
Yeah, so I mean, well, we're going to definitely check in on Alexei Shashov at the next Pro Tour.
Born of the Gods in Valencia. And so 4 Frenchmen in the top 20. That's fantastic. They're the World Magic Cup champions.
I think of the 17 French players in this event, all but one of them made day 2.
That is correct.
And the only one who didn't make day 2 didn't work with the French team. That was Hall of Famer Gabriel
Yeah, I
Nassif,
knew exactly who you're talking about,
who
actually.
played with Team Star City Games. 16 of 16 in day 2.
All right, so let's take you to the action, and we are here looking at Pierre Dajon on the left of your screen and Sam Black on the right. Remember that Dajon leads this match by 1-0 right now. It is mono blue devotion all the way on both sides of the board. And how blue is that board? Only the Frostburn Weird on the right for Sam Black, causing a little bit of non-blue action on your screens. Dajon is at 10. Black, top 25 ranked right now, tied for 25th with Even Flock until after this week. On 8, Dajon 1 up, as you can see.
Looks like he just hit a Thassa God of the Sea off of the top of Sam Black's deck with a Night Veil Spectre.
To go along with it, looks like a Jace also under the Night Veil Spectre, and the fact that Dajon is fairly ahead on board already means this is going to be a tough one for Sam, I think.
And he's going to play the Jace.
Oh, wow.
And that gets...
Nothing more miserable than gainsaying your own Jace.
Yeah. What? Who does that?
Ooh, and
I went
Tidebinder Mage getting some utility in the mono blue mirror here, locking down Frostburn Weird.
I went to the Pro Tour, and all I gainsayed was my own lousy Jace.
Yeah, I don't see how Andrew Kino did poorly if Gainsay was a legal card in the format, but that, of course, being his Magic Online name forever.
He was on the positive side of the double Gainsay play.
Oh, well, that makes sense, actually.
So Black at 8, Dajon at 10, Dajon with all the advantage. That Night Veil Spectre right at the bottom of your screen, underneath Dajon's name, has done proper work already in Game 2 here.
Yeah, and even though Sam could maybe, get some offense going here with a 3/3 Mutavault thanks to his own Master of Waves, I think Dajon is just too far ahead now. He's got a ton of creatures, can play a Thassa if he wants to.
Drawn another Night Veil Spectre. He's got Thassa, as you say, LSV.
He's got 2 Thassas then, I guess. He has Sam's Thassa, too. Assuming that was the last card under Night Veil Spectre there, peeking down on the corner of the screen.
It is. There you get a look at Thassa, God of the Sea. And Sam doesn't look like he has anything other than
he's got an island in his hand.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I mean, if you're going to have a land in your hand, Island is a fine one to be playing.
And one reason that Dajon wants to play Thassa of his own here is that
it doesn't get bounced back.
Yeah, Cyclonic Rifts or Disperse. So I guess Sam just has the Cyclonic Rifts, but Cyclonic Rifting Thassa can be more dangerous, if you play your opponents. And it's not like the Night Veil Spectre is going anywhere.
Thinking about activating a Mutavault here?
I think, yeah, he could make a 4/3 Mutavault. He might also just make Master of Waves unblockable. So he can hit with a Master, 2 tokens, and Night Veil Spectre. Because you certainly don't want to risk the Master in combat.
Yep, unblockable for my Master.
And then this means that at least one of the tokens has to be blocked, which is a pretty decent value for Dajon here.
A fifth of a card for a card.
Yeah. Trading 3/2 for a 2/1, but then Sam going to 1 and Night Veil Spectre just hitting again.
Well, if Mahara's going to come back from this 0-2 hole on the back table, he's going to have to do it with 5 cards, it sounds like. Wow.
Yeah, that is going to be tough. Hitting the island so he can play an Omen Speaker.
And Sam's, yeah.
Probably not necessary. Like, he didn't need that to win because he was already going to win, but it is just adding insult to injury there. Oh, nope, Frostburn Weird still getting locked down, and
Sweep them up. And that is 2-0 to Pierre Dajon. So he is 2 up. Jeremy Desani is 2 up. The 2 Frenchmen, the 2 mono blue devotion decks. They tested together as part of the big French team. You see the two players there. We will be heading back to the front table to see whether Makihita Mihara can dig himself out of a hole. He is 0-2 down and mulliganing to 5 right now.
Sam Black's the last American player standing in the tournament.
Came in with Paul Rietzel for company, not just in terms of Americans, but in terms of the Star City Games team. And he will certainly not feel he's out of the running. Let's take a look at those top 10 Americans. They're all from America. You can imagine the Star Spangled Banner somewhere in the middle there. Black and Rietzel, top 8.
Luis and I can sing it for you.
You can't.
Don't volunteer me, please.
I was counting on you stopping me.
Yeah.
Oh, if he bluffed you, that would have done
semi-bluff.
it. Yeah. Okay, so there you see the top 10. Congratulations in particular, Ray Perez Jr., top 16 on debut.
Oh,
fantastic.
that's phenomenal. That's an even better finish.
That's one way to start your Pro Tour career off.
So let's get down to the action because the players are going in game 3 with Desani 2 to the good. And you're going to see a temple from Mihara, Judge's Familiar on turn 1 from Jeremy Desani, looking to close this one out. Mihara, land number 2.
It looks like Mihara sided in a Sylvan Primordial, which is not the card you want in your hand when you roll
Oh,
into
no.
5.
So the mulligan to 4.
Yeah.
Did
Not
he go
that it's a
down?
bad
Did he go to
card.
4?
No, he mulled to 5, but he has the
Oh,
Primordial
the
in his
function,
opener.
right.
Yeah.
Which 7 drop.
How do you feel like a mulligan to 4 with a handful of 6 drops?
Yeah. Omen Speaker just jumping right into the void left by Augur of Bolas in Standard.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're kind of the same card, but yeah.
But not.
I mean, not actually drawing the card is, clearly a pretty big difference, and then not having a Restoration Angel around makes it a little tougher too.
Oh, there's a Night Veil Spectre.
The first of looks like 2.
So we're, yeah.
Not
Night
much
Veil
of a
Spectre's got to go.
Yeah, at this point, Mihara's got a handful of expensive spells. Doesn't really have a ton of choice here. He's going to need to draw lands pretty quickly, otherwise he's going to get run over by the second Night Veil Spectre. Plus, well, the Omen Speaker and Judges from there are kind of pecking away still.
And even if he gets set up, we see that Desani's hand has a couple of Cyclonic Rifts and a Negate.
Yeah.
So he can just, play with his food, as it were, for a couple of turns.
Yeah, if Mihara does draw enough mana to maybe cast this Sylvan Primordial while he's still around 10 life, which is kind of a stretch right now, but it is, definitely possible, then maybe he's able to sneak back into it, but he's going to need to do something pretty quickly here. The good thing is, even though Night Veil Spectre does kind of draw you extra cards, it's pretty easy for it to miss the first couple times.
So he's got himself to 5 mana next turn.
Ooh. No, that Tidebinder Mage was a huge draw on Desani's part, since not only does that Stone Rain Mihara by tapping the Voyaging Satyr, it also is an additional piece of power, which is all really that Desani needs at this point, since he's got all the disruption spells he needs.
And for those who don't know, Stone Rain, 2 and a red, destroy target land, and functionally that's what's happened with Tidebinder Mage there. So it's all Desani all the time right now. He is 2-0 over Mihara. He's well ahead on board. Mihara behind on cards as well, on board.
And at this point, Desani can just, if
You
you
just
wanted to,
Cyclonic Rift
even just start Cyclonic Rifting and just attacking for 5,
I think that's what
6
he is
damage.
looking at here.
Yeah, I think it would be, a pretty reasonable play just to bounce the Voyaging Satyr in a turn. That way you can just attack for 6. Mihara is, I think, in trouble here.
And for the second Pro Tour running, Makihita Mihara looks like falling at the penultimate hurdle. He just indicates to himself he's going to take it all.
I feel so terrible for him.
Yeah. If Desani can manage to steal a couple green sources, he can go off with these Burning Tree Emissaries, but
Stop it.
I don't think we're getting to that point.
No drowning trees here.
Mihara draws, looks,
Am I dead?
counts,
Technically not with the Pelucranos, but not only does Dizani have the Cyclonic Rift, he's also...
Pass the turn, show you the Cyclonic Rift, extend the hand, and Jeremy Dizani in a dominating performance, 3-0 against a Hall of Famer, Camille Cornelison, 3-0 against, who knows, a future Hall of Famer with Makahita Mahara. So that is 3-0 to Jeremy Dizani. And Brian David Marshall, we get to talk a lot over 3 days. And eventually, we hit on some players that might be doing well.
Yeah, we narrow down the field eventually in our own way.
Yeah, but let's be honest. We had Dizani right at the get-go and said this is one of the real coming forces on the European scene, and it's about time for a breakout performance.
Yeah, breakout performance
wow.
and a resurgent performance for the French team. I know, when you got started as a competitive player, and you saw yourself playing against someone from France, right? They were a powerhouse nation. It was like the United States, France, Denmark, and Japan were really like the big powerhouse teams when you were getting started as a pro at the beginning of your career. And they've kind of, ebbed a little bit.
There have been ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and so we're definitely they're definitely in a great flow right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming off the World Magic Cup title, and now...
Yeah, watching, Levy win the World Magic Cup title, and now it looks like there's, we're a game away from being 2 French players in the finals of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, and I mean, Simoneau, I did find he's a Grand Prix winner in the last year. Guthmann was on the team.
top 20 also.
20 here.
Yeah.
Exactly. They are just taking things down at the moment, and it's the critical mass, because you think of Louis Deltour, and remember that Dizani and Deltour and Simoneau, they are all in this group where they're just playing together. So we're going to head down and hear from the first man into the final, Jeremy Dizani.
Hi, Rashad Miller, and I am here with finalist Jeremy Dizani. Now, Jeremy, the French team won Worlds, and now you are in the finals, and your Frenchman is also 2 games up. So what does this say for the way that French Magic has been progressing?
Yes, I think we had a very, very good team and World Championship, yes, with 4 very good players. We know all of them before they won WMCQ. So there are 4 good guys, so I think it's okay for the win because they're a good team. About French community, I think all the guys we have who won the PTQ, yes, all of these guys are good. It's not random guy who won a PTQ. It's good guys and join us in a group of tests and participate a lot for testing and have some good idea. So I think we're a very, very good group for testing this Pro Tour, yes.
All right, so setting aside any bias for, country, if you had to choose between having to play in the finals, Pierre Dejean or Sam Black, who would you rather go up against?
Of course, I prefer if Pierre won the match. That's normal because he's my friend. But I think I have more confidence if I play against Sam to Pierre, because it's difficult because we are good friends, and play a final of PT between 2 friends is a little hard. But I think we have no problem behind us, and we are good friends after the match anyway, if you wanna.
All right, a very confident Mr. Dizani here. I'm going to send it back to the booth. I'm Rashad Miller. Let's watch some more Magic.
Yeah, terrific stuff. Jeremy Dizani there saying, well, strangely enough, I'd like my best friend and teammate and compatriot to be in the final. But also, though, I'd really like to play
that he
Sam.
lost.
Right. Yeah, and not surprisingly, because testing anecdotally shows that 2-0 on the table behind me is the matchup I'm about to play if Sam somehow, sneaks back in. But then if Sam beats him, then he gets to do it twice, maybe. So, yeah. Either way, fantastic for France and Dizani in, and very well deserved. I mean, I'm very impressed the way he's holding it together as well, because he is a super emotional guy. The number of times I could make a montage of end of feature matches of European Grand Prix with the fist pump and the leap out the chair and the high fives along the rail. He really, really cares.
And that's just you.
Stop. All right, so Luis, we're going to head obviously towards the other semi-final. Plot a course back for us. Put yourself in Sam Black's chair. He's 2-0 down in what looks like a perfectly kind of even match. So is there anything he can look to do to fight his way back in here?
I mean, nothing particularly special. You just have to play every game the same. But he is confident that his gainsays in the sideboard really give him an edge that should help him in this matchup. So if he's able to get into a position where that matters, he could have a good shot.
Well, let's see what happens. There are the two players. Sam Black on the right kicks off game number 3. He must win it, and 4, and 5, or it will be an all-French, all-friends, all-the-time final with mono blue. Pierre Dajon, Island. He has many, many of them in his deck. 3 Mutavaults, 21 islands. Sam, 20 islands, 4 Mutavaults, and 1 Nykthos Shrine to Nyx.
The way that these creatures are going to play out might actually not be great for Sam, since he led with Tidebiter Mage. Now Dajon plays the Frostburn. Now Sam might play his own Frostburn and have Dajon play his own Tidebiter Mage.
Yeah, that is not the kind of symmetry you really want.
No, and here's where being on the play is kind of tough. Because I think leading with Tidebinder is correct, since that makes it less likely that that Dajon gets to get you when you play Frostburn weird. But in this particular case, Dajon had both the 2-drops, so he's going to sequence it correctly.
But here comes Master of Waves.
Yeah, Dajon went for Nightveil Spectre on turn 3, and as you say, Master of Waves leading to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tokens. 1-0, but they all get +1/+1 via the Master of Waves.
And having the Master of Waves advantage is big, and Dajon does not look like he's got his own Master. Though he does have a Ratchet Bomb, which is pretty huge here.
Isn't it just? Because, of course, he can activate that for 0.
And hitting with Nightveil Spectre in the mirror is insane.
Yeah. Oh, it's a Cloudfin Raptor.
But yeah, like you're saying, sorry, Ratchet Bomb does clear out the waves. the Master remains, the waves subside. So I think...
Here's Tidebinder for that Frostburn Weird. Mutavault from Dajon, and he'll use up all his mana to play that Ratchet Bomb.
So how do you play this in terms of, again, similar to what we saw in the Mahara match? Does he just pop the Ratchet Bomb? Does he wait to maybe soak up a little damage and try to control Sam's turn?
There's no real incentive to just pop it right away. When Sam attacks is the next choice. Sam certainly has to attack before playing his second Master of Waves. And it looks like Dajon's just going to get rid of all the tokens right now.
Yeah.
Which gives Sam the opportunity to play a second Master of Waves, and now he's got an even more impressive army. So I think Dajon should have given a little thought to just blocking 1 token and taking like 8 damage, but locking Sam out from playing a second Master on this turn.
Now, Pierre does theoretically have one other Ratchet Bomb to find.
And
maybe Sam's Ratchet Bombs.
No, Sam doesn't have any, unfortunately, for Pierre, though he did hit a Cyclonic Rift. So that could lead to some pretty good turns, especially since Pierre does have a Jace Architect of Thought, so that makes blunts the assault a little bit.
Dajon prepares from his hand the aforementioned Planeswalker.
And he can now play the Cloudfin Raptor off the Nightveil Spectre. But he's choosing to leave mana up for Frostburn Weird. I guess he wants to pump it to kill a token instead. He's certainly not in chump block mode yet. I mean, he's got a lot of life. Jace just +1, so he can survive the hit here fairly easily. I mean, there's no way for him to die this turn.
I wonder if you could ever see a situation where someone plays the Jace, pushes it up, plays another Jace, pushes it up to just
I've never actually seen that, but that would be awesome.
-2.
I've seen Jace -2 a lot in the same turn, but I've never seen that attack. So we're seeing some attack Jace and some attack Pierre here. This is what it looks like.
Or is he attacking everybody at Jace and assuming that there's some blocking going on?
Yeah, if he only attacks 3 at Jace, it doesn't necessarily die.
Yeah, he would be like, oh, I'll let those 2 hit me.
If Jace doesn't die this turn, Pierre also can just minus it looking for, because if he finds his own Master or Ratchet Bomb, then he's way ahead again. Since the Nightveil Spectre gives him a significant edge every turn, and we're kind of like ticking down towards that Cyclonic Rift. Once that hits 7, Sam's in trouble.
The overload clock is engaged.
Yeah.
It's like in the movies, start ticking faster when you're a turn away. So, yep, you were right. He's using it to pump the Frostborn Weird. Loses his Jace. Takes no damage, though. It's just a giant vitamin.
Yeah, I mean, Jace bought him a lot of life there, and an extra 2 cards, essentially, from his draw step plus Night Veil Spectre. Except that now Night Veil Spectre is matched by Sam, so...
So, board getting substantially full with black on the right and Dajon now drawing. Nothing going on there in hand.
So you have to Cyclonic Rift the Night Veil Spectre and attack and hope to draw something really good here.
He could. He is not to the point where he's dead yet. Unfortunately, without the Jason play, he's not doing as much per turn. So even if he overloads Cyclonic Rift, that doesn't necessarily mean that he ends up too far ahead. Since Sam then gets to just recast the Masters eventually.
But not being too far ahead sounds a lot better than being far behind.
Yeah, he certainly might have to do that. He just might not be happy about it.
Sam has a Jace of his own.
Or a pair.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Sam was really
Kings, as we like to call it.
Yeah, Sam was really looking for Gainsay there. I think if he hits Gainsay there, he's, pretty much a lock.
But he can play a Jason.
Yeah, he can play a Jace. I don't think...
Oh, he doesn't have enough mana.
I don't think Pierre's going to
You're not going to give him the
Gainsay
Gainsay land pile.
If Sam hits Gainsay land, that would be interesting. Pierre might have to, try to soul read him
Gainsay.
whether he has land in hand or not. But other than that, I don't see very many situations where you end up with Gainsay and land in the same pile.
1, 2, 3, 4. Here's a Planeswalker.
Let's draw some cards.
Little flourish, Magician's Flourish from Sam.
Island. Nykthos trying to Nyx.
All right, well.
Island.
Nykthos is, even though land's not really what Sam's looking for here, Nykthos is pretty insane since now his subsequent Jaces are going to do a lot more work, and looks like he's getting in with a bunch of cards here. Mutavault as a 4/4, tokens as 3/2s.
That's a lot of damage coming in. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 19.
I don't love the Night Veil Spectre attack, since I think that the Night Veil Spectre doesn't have a block it wants to make anyway, and that would open the door for Pierre to hit with his own Night Veil Spectre. So yeah, Sam is leaving that back there. Especially with Nykthos, the Cyclonic Rift is just much less effective now. Sam does have to take a turn off to replay his Night Veil and Frostburn Weird and whatnot, but then he gets to play double Master of Waves in the same turn thanks to Nykthos. And Pierre also doesn't really want to risk any of his Mutavaults in combat here. I mean, they would die to fighting anything because he wants to be able to kick Cyclonic Rift.
Just checking.
He could
3-2 right now.
He could just chump the Mutavault, take 15 and go to 5, but then next turn, I guess might as well block. You get a free block with the Frostburn Weird. So you take 12, you go to 8. Next turn you kick Cyclonic Rift and just attack. You get to get 5 damage in. And then Sam is a little behind. You get to draw an extra card off your turn plus the Night Veil Spectre.
Oh, thanks. I have my Cloudflame Raptor back. So, Dajon now. Looks like a Frostburn Weird come into hand.
Which is not really what he's looking for.
So, there's your overloaded Cyclonic Rift of Sam's. The Night Veil Spectre. 3, 4, 5, 6 damage.
11 triggers, take 5 damages to 11.
Looking for a second Cyclonic Rift pretty hard here since Sam also gets to Tidebinder Mage, the Frostburn Weird. Sam is actually ahead despite being behind on board here, I think. I mean, if Pierre is in a position where he might be able to squeeze out a win with a good tempo spell, but I think Sam, the fact that he can lock down the Frostburn Weird, play Night Veil Spectre or play some other creatures, and then next turn use Nykthos to pretty good effect means that he's definitely the one who's got inevitability at this point, but Pierre has another turn or two to maybe try to sneak out a win.
I mean, Pierre does have 2 Cyclonic Rift of his own.
Yeah, if you can find one of those, then that's a pretty big edge. So he needs to find it like this turn, though, since...
That's what we would call a tempo play in the business.
Since next turn, Sam's going to have access to 8 mana off Nykthos plus his other lands.
Frostburn Weird.
So he doesn't even have great attacks this turn.
That is not what we call kings, BDM. No. 2 Frostburn Weird.
No, no.
Not quite the same as 2 Jace.
That's a pair of 9s.
So... Danjon checks his hand. He's going to activate 2 Mutavault and just send in the boys. He got the tempo advantage with Sam's Cyclonic Rift overloaded. And now he's trying somehow to squeeze out the win before things go mental on the other side of the board.
So people on Twitter were questioning whether or not you could play a Cyclonic Rift for its overload cost from under a Night Veil Spectre. But there's nothing saying from your hand on the card.
Yep.
It just says you may cast a spell for its overload cost.
I'll do that then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Sam's got basically 2 options here. It's whether he wants to block Night Veil Spectre to keep Pierre from getting a free look at Sam's top card, or whether to just eat a creature. I think blocking the Night Veil Spectre is safer, since Pierre is likely on not a whole lot, and letting him try to hit a Cyclonic Rift, which would just instantly win in the game, is pretty risky.
Double Frostburn to finish things off. We go back to Sam.
And he falls to 5 since he needs to keep Tidebinder and Mage in play because it taps for 2 mana and it keeps the Frostburn Weird locked down.
So there's a full 7 cards there for Sam Black right now.
Let's take a look at them.
Frostburn Weird, Thassa, double Jace, double Master, Mutavault.
There won't be for long, though. Sam's going to get to cast almost all of the cards in his hand this turn, since he gets to, like, he can play something before he plays Nykthos. He can play, like, Frostburn Weird before he activates Nykthos, because it's essentially free. He go up to 9 mana. He can play, like, double
You can just play
Master
2
Waves.
Master Waves, yeah.
Seems pretty good.
I can't wait to play this deck at home.
And he can even leave a Mutavault untapped. No, I guess he goes up to 9 and then has to tap out. But still, just about tap out. But still, having 2 Master Waves in play is a pretty big swing.
Right, the first one comes down for 6 tokens. The next one comes down for 7 tokens. Those tokens are all 3 power.
Yeah, so basically Sam just needs to, Pierre not to draw a Ratchet Bomb or Cyclonic Rift for like 1 turn here. There is some consideration of not playing the second Master of Waves because of Ratchet Bomb, but I'm going to see. Sam does just, I guess he probably wins with 1 Master of Waves in play anyway, so maybe.
That I just played in an island.
This looks like he's gonna want to.
He's going to want to attack this turn.
He's making sure to keep the non-summoning sick Mutavault untapped, so he potentially wants to attack this turn. Nope, or not. I guess Jace plus 1ing is just the safer route here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Cyclonic Rift still makes things pretty tough for him.
Certainly some debate about whether or not there should be a Shrine to Nyx in the blue, in the blue deck, and you see how powerful it can be in this deck.
Yeah,
when Sam's playing it.
I think you do want it. I think not just because this turn was absurd, but because the cost of having 1 extra colorless land is not irrelevant, certainly, but it's the upside is so big that I think it's worth it.
Just the 10 tokens then.
That's all.
Yeah. So yeah, not playing the second Master Waves is a pretty good idea here.
Cyclonic Rift.
Thassa, actually, which is awesome. Let's see. Does Pierre have enough mana to make enough things unblockable here? It looks like he might.
Has he drawn into the win?
He can play.
Well, remember, so everything's -1.
Yeah, so he's not going to be able to kill Sam this turn. So Sam playing the second Jace or the Jace was what he needed to do to not die.
In fact.
A great play there, and not necessarily. There's that first instinct is like, I'm going to just put as much power as possible on the board, but you also have to think about, how do I not lose?
Yeah, and Thassa is definitely one of those ways. So Pierre can play Thassa, make 2 things unblockable, but I don't think he can hit for enough.
Even with pumping the weirds,
Well,
which is the best he can do, isn't
the
it?
weirds start out at
Naught.
0.
Yeah.
So the weirds hit for 2 each. He can, yeah, he can't quite do it.
One short.
So he's not going to be able to survive this next turn either, though. Since 5
blockers.
10 tokens that all have 3 power once the second master comes out.
Yeah.
So what he
So
can
what,
do
what
is,
he's got to look
yeah.
right. He's got to get in with the Night Veil Spectre and hope
Sam's playing Ratchet Bomb.
Sam's playing Ratchet Bomb or possibly even
Island. That will not help.
a bounce spell mid combat.
Yeah, but Sam would just play the other master before combat, just because he would fear
Yeah.
that. But then, no, actually a bounce spell would do it, because then Pierre can just bounce the other master, kill all the tokens, and make them basically summoning sick.
Now, if Sam Black comes back to win this in half an hour's time, 45 minutes time maybe, let's remember that play with the Master of Waves and Jace. Because I know that right now I'm dead when Dajon makes Thassa and just goes, oh, I made my guys unblockable. Meanwhile, let's see what they've got to work with in terms of sideboard. And we're going to kick off with Pierre Dajon. And there you see a collection of Planeswalkers of the Jace variety, a Mutavault, 3 Wall of Frost, Triton Tactics, double Ratchet Bomb, single Pithing Needle, and triple negate. So, gentlemen, have at it.
Well, we already know he's brought in those Ratchet Bombs.
Yeah, and those are very good, since Master is like one of the most impactful cards in the mirror, and having ways to kind of... It doesn't get you an advantage if you both have it, but if they're ahead of you, it's what brings you back.
We've seen Python Needle for Planeswalkers, but you don't really want to bring it in for Jace here.
No, and Jace seems pretty good in the mirror also, so I suspect that the Ratchet Bombs, the Jace, and potentially the Mutavault are what's coming in.
Any thought to the? Did you say the negates or?
I don't know how much I love negate. They do counter Cyclonic Rift, Gainsay, and Jace, so that's probably enough. But I don't know if you'd want all 3 of them.
In case you sort of start with 2 as a kickoff, or?
Yeah, part of it is like this deck does need to draw a lot of creatures to make Master of Waves good, to make the beatdown plan good, and in general, you can't afford to have a hand with like 3 spells, 2 creatures, and 2 land, or you know, you can't get spell flooded.
You can't have a reactive hand in this matchup.
So here we are with Sam Black's sideboard: 3 Jace Architect of Thought, 1 Dissolve, triple Rapid Hybridization, Omen Speaker, couple of Aetherling, 3 Gainsay, and 2 Negate. So again, what do you reckon here?
Well, the Gainsays are coming in. And I think some number of the Jaces, if not all of them, since Jace seems pretty awesome.
Like you just jam all those Jaces right in there.
Yeah, I mean, Jace is pretty strong, but...
All right. We're all going to sit up as we come back into the booth here.
Speak for yourselves.
What they don't know is that we're all in T-shirt and shorts once we go down to the floor, and then it's
quick
like
change artists.
Shirt, tie, jacket, and here we are again.
Whatever we do, we cannot stand up, though.
Yeah, that is certainly true. All right, so Sam's done part 1. He avoided what could have been a top deck disaster with the Thassa, which is terrific from him.
Let's take a look at Thassa Master Waves. This is like one of the big cards in the semifinals. I mean, it's in 3 decks, and people have talked about this being much more important even than the Master of Waves in this archetype.
Well, here is Master of Waves.
Oh, we're going to look at Master Waves. I'm sorry.
So it's a powerful blue creature, an army of tokens. Now, usually when people say, oh, it's an army of tokens, people sort of say it's like Elspeth bringing you 3 soldiers. But no, this is an actual army of tokens. You get an absolute ton of them. A Frostburn Weird, Tidebinder Mage talking about there.
Night Veil Spectre is a card that's really propelled into, a huge off-season free agent acquisition for the blue decks. I mean, people weren't playing with that a lot, but it's a powerful ability. Then coupled with that extra ability of 3 blue mana.
Yeah, I mean, Night Veil Spectre is a card that I like playing with. We played with it the last Pro Tour in our Esper deck sideboard, which is admittedly a very different use than here, but it is a very sweet card, and it enables Master of Waves. It's the perfect turn 3 play for the turn 4 Master of Waves.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff going on with that. I love the 1-0. And why don't we take a look at the people that even the Master of Waves has to bow down to. This is the blue god, and it's Thassa, god of the sea. So Thassa, just, again, terrific design, and love seeing Thassa come in. Sam, by the way, is on his way back, so won't be long there. And Do you... I'm surprised we haven't seen Heliod, in a sense, because we've seen 4 out of the 5.
Well, you know,
but-
I was joking with Luis before one of our earlier breaks about like mono white devotion, not something
Yeah.
we've seen. I mean, part of the reason you don't see Heliod is you don't see a really easy path to turning that on.
No hero's path?
Yeah, I mean, you have Precinct Captain and Boros Reckoner as some of the best enablers.
Sold.
Those are strong. The problem is White doesn't have quite as many big spells to really play as the other colors.
Well, let's take a look at Thassa, God of the Sea, coming up on screen now. And Thassa, there she is. The mythic, rare, legendary enchantment creature from Theros, indestructible. Upkeep a Scry 1, and that's... I mean, you could take away so much of that card and still think it was an amazing card.
Yeah, I mean, you must love this format where you have so many more decisions to make, and you have so much more control over your draw step.
Yeah, I mean, getting to Scry every turn is pretty awesome just by itself. I mean, that wouldn't quite make the card, but add to that the ability to make your creatures unblockable and the ability to be a 5/5 indestructible, and Thassa does lead to some pretty interesting games.
Yeah. And then, Biden of Thassa, obviously.
Somehow those work together.
Yeah, we used to way back, climb on the Predator flagship, conduct a little coastal piracy.
Yeah.
Very, very similar feel to the two, except Thassa's a little bigger and better than the flagship was.
My first Pro Tour in the booth was Kuala Lumpur 2008, and in that top 8, John Finkel was up a game, or maybe even 2, over Mario Pascoli of Italy. And John went away from the table for a bathroom break. And there were these amazing shots of Pascoli kind of head in hands, just trying to pull himself together. And we've got shots down on the floor of Pierre Dajon right now. Now, he's 2-1 up, but he's just lost game 3. And I'm interested in what he's feeling because he's alone with his thoughts right now. And, I'm sure Sam is not making him wait, but the fact is Dajon is sitting there. He's not playing Magic. He's no closer to the finals than he was 3 minutes ago. Indeed, he's further away in the sense that Sam is now on the board. And I find these moments very interesting because, Luis, and you're a Hall of Famer, and even so, the feature match area can be a lonely place.
Yeah, it's interesting because what happens in the next, half hour is going to be very impactful to, a lot of what happens for the rest of Pierre's life. Like, there's a big swing between winning a Pro Tour and not winning a Pro Tour. I mean, $20,000 in difference is not a small amount of money.
Right.
So
if you're going to make that commitment to being a professional Magic player, you're saying, you know what, I'm going to put, maybe I had some other plans for the next 2 years, but I'm going to put those on hold to pursue this dream of playing Magic professionally. $20,000 makes that a lot easier a decision.
And even if you don't think about the exact tangible rewards, I mean, you really want to win this match. This is what you came here to do. And when you're sitting there, you have to just be focused on what's coming next. You can't really think of the things you could have done differently at this point in time.
I just want to point out that Desani's gone over the top of Sam Black and gone to take his own break. He's like, when he gets back here, I am not going to be here. Yeah. That's how we're going to play this.
I would also point out that you are looking at Dajon there, yeah.
Oh, Dajon, I'm sorry.
Sure. I'd also point out it isn't just about $20,000 because we were chatting with Aaron Forsyth and Alain Bergeau and all the benefits and so on. So you become platinum
right
when you win the Pro Tour, not just for the rest of this season, and this is the first of this season, but all of next.
Yeah.
So the winner of, let's say it's Desani and Dajon, the winner of that match has the next 2 years locked up as platinum with WMCQ 2 buys and $500 appearance fees, Grand Prix appearance fees, all the airfare, all the hotels. It is way beyond $20,000 that they're playing for in difference
a seat in the
final.
A seat in the World Championship.
Yeah.
Absolutely, at Nice in 2014. And I think Gardenis Vidigiris possibly currently holds the record for what I might call the most expensive loss at a Pro Tour when he lost to Hayne because he missed out on platinum in that final, which was
missed
heartbreaking.
Out on platinum, World Championship seed.
Yeah,
it was pretty brutal.
But I mean, this is just gigantic that they're playing for, and so you do have to keep yourself together. And one thing Sam does, I don't think I've ever seen Sam discomforted at a Magic table.
No, he does not flap.
No, He does not. What he does do is sit down and shuffle up his cards. I can tell you the players are both back in their seats and ready to resume battle with Pierre 2-1 up here in the best 3 out of 5. Jeremy Desani waiting in the wings.
Let me ask you something. While we're waiting, as we saw Dijon sitting there before, he was just kind of like just shuffling his deck and kind of how much does sort of the ritual, people always joke about Magic players flicking their cards or shuffling their decks, or, I've done interviews with retired Magic players. And they said, do you have, I mean, I'm not even joking, right? They said, well, if we're going to talk about Magic, do you have a deck on you? I really just kind of want to shuffle it.
Right.
How comforting is that action and sort of centering?
Yeah, I mean, it helps. Like it keeps your mind focused on what you're about to do, and instead of just sitting there doing nothing with your hands, you get to be shuffling instead.
And the sound of it is also even, the riffle sound. We talk about that at the start of a pro tour when everybody's flicking their 14 cards down onto the table as they count out their first booster pack. That is, I have an almost Pavlovian reaction to that. I'm like, oh boy, we're going to start another pro tour.
Yeah, and that began with Ben Stark taking a very first pick in round 1, and that's how we've led to now just 3 people left standing. Sam Black, Pierre Dajon, Jeremy Desani. 1 Frenchman in, 1 Frenchman still 1 up. But Sam's on the march.
So many elemental tokens.
Yeah, well, at least now we don't have to spread them between lots of tables. So maybe we'll have enough if we get there in the final. It looks to me like the players are very close to ready. So why don't we head back down to the floor? We'll change back into our T-shirts and shorts and take you down.
I've got a lovely pair of overalls that I'm going to try for the next round.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. And there you see the 2 players. Dajon on the left. He is, in fact, going to mulligan.
Yeah, I talked about how much these players love shuffling. They don't love this shuffling.
No, the shuffling after the mulligan is a lot less fun.
Yeah, you suddenly become aware. You could do it unconsciously for half an hour, but you become so aware of the mulligan shuffling. Like, oh, I can't believe I have to keep shuffling my deck. How hard is it to force yourself to shuffle the correct amount after a mulligan?
It's not too hard. You don't want to mulligan again, that's for sure. So,
there's that kind of like I just want to play. But I guess at this level you've sanded down all those kind of like bad impulses.
Not all of them.
We're not talking about draft here, Luis.
This is true.
How did you find the draft format overall when you were testing? What's the shape of draft look like?
I like this draft format a lot. It's fun to play. It's not overly fast, but there are fast draws, which I like. There's like a good range of experiences. And you get rewarded for drafting good synergy, and I like a lot of the mechanics that are in the draft also.
I loved your first draft deck. I thought that was
it was a really
one of the
deck.
better decks I've seen in the format. All right, looks like we're underway.
Yep, away from limited, back to constructed, back to standard.
Back to limited, Cloudfin Raptor.
Oh, stop confusing them. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, some of these do just look like limited decks, but they're so powerful once they're all synergized together. Cloudfin Raptor gets added to. Here's a Cyclonic Rift from Pierre.
And Cyclonic Rifting the Cloudfin Raptor is I think a really good play there. A lot of players wouldn't have just snapped it off, but Pierre's going to tap out the next couple turns and just wants to not get too far behind on the board.
We're going to see Night Veil Spectres now on either side of the board. Sam also has Tidebinder Mage in play. As Pierre says, here's a Frostburn Weird. I'll add land number 4. It's a Mutavault, so bonus creature action potentially for him later in the game.
I can show you a little bit of what is going on in Sam Black's hand right now. And he's just cast that Cloudfin Raptor at the top of the list, but...
And he's leaving up Gainsay mana, which has got to be a little suspicious for Pierre here, since Sam has a handful of cards. Well, looks like he is ready and willing to get Gainsayed.
Oh, just pushes...
Yep, says Master of Waves. You got the Gainsay? Yes, you have. Okay.
He had to go for it there, I think, because he's got nothing else in his hand, and Gainsay is cheap enough that even though Sam did miss a land drop, it doesn't hurt him that much to keep it up. Sam now going to get on the board, I think, with Thassa here, since Thassa's looking pretty good on a relatively stalled board. Looks like Sam is choosing not to run it out, though.
We mentioned Makihito Mahara out 2 consecutive semifinals running. Sam Black, of course, fell at this stage last time around on his Pro Tour top 8 appearance, Philadelphia 2011, losing out to Josh Utter-Layton before Utter-Layton got defeated by Samuela Estrati. But here, Dajon is trying to do that again to Black by piling in with double Mutavault, Night Veil Spectre, and Frostburn Weird.
And I like this play in the face of a Gainsay. He's offering to trade a Mutavault for a card off Night Veil Spectre, which is, I think, a good trade. Since he's got nothing to do with his mana, and I think he'd rather take a crack at the top of Sam's deck, try to peel something nice. I also just kind of like pumping the Frostburn Weird here. Just just nug him for 5.
Yep. And trigger off the Night Veil. And Sam says,
something good?
Oh, it's Cloudfin Raptor. Back we go to Sam.
Now Sam is going to get a card off of Dijon's deck.
He could. If he wants to clock in with Night Veil Spectre.
I guess it's a calculated risk because you're both.
Now Dijon has opened up the door to like them trading Night Veil Spectre hits. Sam has a lot of spells in his hand,
including another Night Veil Spectre, by the way.
Yeah, so he's really hoping to hit lands here. I think that's the tiebreakers. If he hits a land here, it's very good for him. Tidebinder Mage, not exactly what he's looking for. He's going to play it, maybe. It looked like he was grabbing it, but it looks like...
Now he's gonna put down the Night Veil Spectre.
Yeah.
And of course that evolves the Cloudfin Raptor, 1 counter on there.
Well, rapid hybridization means Dijon can actually just get another hit in if he really wants to. Of course, no, that actually wouldn't help because it would evolve the Cloudfin Raptor.
Oh, wow.
And make it so it could then block the Night Veil Spectre. Getting aggressive with Frostburn Weird here.
Night Veil Spectre goes to block Night Veil Spectre. And that looks like Frostburn all the way, so Sam will fall to 11.
Yep.
Sam's hoping for a Nykthos more than anything else, but he peeled off his 3rd Tidebinder Mage.
His hand.
All right.
Trigger.
Do we hit lands?
Lots of cards, not a lot of options.
He's going to play the
'cause
land for sure.
Trigger.
Trigger. Evolve, get rid of Frostburn Weird.
Go.
And pass the turn.
Yeah, Sam's really far ahead
Sitting
now.
back on my Gainsay.
Yeah. Gear's going to rapid hybridization. Yeah, the Cloudfin Raptor, I think, just to get it hidden with that Night Veil Spectre.
I mean, you don't have to Gainsay this, right?
You don't, but it might lead to the best, like, the best outcome would be to Gainsay this to stop him from hitting something good, and then, you know, not taking the 3 to potentially 4 damage off Cloudfin Raptor. The problem is if you do Gainsay this, and then he draws Master of Waves, Pierre draws Master of Waves, that could be a little more problematic for Sam.
Okay.
The other advantage of Gainsaying this is Sam really wants to start spending mana, so looks like he's going to pass on it, but I think it is definitely something worth thinking about.
That might turn out to be an interesting choice point in this best of 5 game set.
I think the fact that Sam's winning on the board by so much means that overall it is not worth gainsaying, but if Pierre managed to draw a good card in his turn and then draw a card, it looks like
he drew Thassa.
Which does, of course, get gainsayed.
Yeah.
She sends right back to the sea.
So here comes Night Veil Spectre. Trigger, what have we got? What does Sam give him? It's a Jace Architect of Thought. Sam clambering his way back into this one. Was 2-0 down. Still 2-1 behind.
Not for a whole lot longer, given that how many cards he's got in his hand and
what they are.
And drawing 3 cards a turn.
in comes not the Night Veil Spectre that's got a bunch of stuff under it.
Yeah, and Dash at 14, but not in good shape at all.
Now, if he draws a Thassa, maybe he can live. Because Thassa is, I think, his best route to victory at this point. But Sam's going to get to play his own Thassa this turn. And that is a pretty big swing.
Yeah.
Got to retarget the Frostburn weird there. But
Oh, good point.
I mean, there's no reason not to. Not that it matters here too much, since Dijon is about as dead as it gets here. He's facing down lethal and has no cards in hand. He's got a Jace, but I don't really know what he can Jace into.
-2. So here come 3 cards. 2 Cloudfin Raptor and an Island.
And game
And
5.
there we go.
Wow.
So Sam's clambered his way back. And it's 2 apiece. And meanwhile, Jeremy Desani is waiting to see who advances. 2-2 between his friend Pierre Dajon and Star City Games' Sam Black. So we've already seen the top 10 American finishers at this event and the top 10 Europeans. But, well, there are a ton of other countries around the world. Let's take a look at the rest of the world. And BDM, what stands out to you in that list?
Well, obviously, Makihito Mahara locking up his 5th top 8, his second semifinal appearance in a row. Someone who, was I think within 2 or 3 spots, probably less than 10 percentage points of being included in this Hall of Fame class. He was right on that cusp. Maybe it was a little bit more than that, depending on which committee he was who was voting. 5 top 8s, world's win, world team win. Countless national teams. It's a pretty compelling most recent entry onto his resume.
Definitely.
We said that the French are doing fantastically at the moment. Well, there are a lot of French speakers certainly in Canada, and if you add in the likes of Alexander Hayne, Lucas Xiao, Dave Kaplan to a list that now you see Sam Tharmaratnam and Sean McLaren both in top 32 contention, Canada's in pretty good shape as well magically right now.
Yeah, there's a couple of different teams even at this point from Canada. There's the team face-to-face games, which is the Alexander Hayne-led team. But you also, Canada's really big.
It is.
And there's teams on either side of the Rocky Mountains, and you have a couple groups. Sam Tharmaratnam is. I don't believe playing with face-to-face games. I believe he was playing with another group of Canadian players.
That's right. They basically sort of said, well, how about we just sort of go back to basics? The PTQ winners, for the most part, got together and said, hey, look, we can replicate this success. We can't all bang the door down of the top Canadian team, and that's fine. Yeah. But we can do this. There is a developing story down the bottom there, though. Paulo Vita Dama de Rosa, he's a Hall of Famer. But he did not have a great season last year. As a Hall of Famer, he can come to the Pro Tour anytime he so pleases. But he doesn't get to go to an awful lot of Grand Prix. He's still at school. He's busy with that. And, 71st here isn't it's obviously better than most. There were 450-odd players. But it isn't a top-tier finish, which he would have really wanted to start chaining into flights, accommodation again, because he's not a Platinum Pro right now. That's a swing and a miss this time for Paulo.
Yeah, how is...
that was pretty brutal.
I was watching Luis do the Rodney Dangerfield collar tug. He's like, well, I cannot speak objectively on this subject. Paulo's had just... an amazing career. Everybody...
He's 9 Pro Tour
yeah,
top
yeah. Everybody, and also, we talk about, no top 16s.
Yeah.
So, he's run pretty good for the bulk of his career.
He's just unlucky not to have top 16s.
Yeah.
He should have 9 Pro Tour top 8s and 5 top 16s.
Do you know people who do get top 16s at Pro Tours fairly regularly?
Yeah, which is not as good as top 8s, but still
okay.
all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're okay with them.
Indeed we are. But seriously, I'm sure you'll have talked to Paulo. What is his approach to the game right now? Because he is very busy, with real life stuff as you are. And, is he trying to devote a lot of time to Magic? Is his schedule clear for Valencia and moving forward through the year?
Yeah, we did a lot of testing for this Pro Tour. He came out early. He stayed at Eric Froehlich's house for almost a week.
Oh, awesome.
And then we came out to Dublin for a week. And so I think his preparation has been good. And
to be fair, 71st, is a couple of you know, things rolling one way or the other
Right.
away from being a money
I mean,
finish.
10-6 and 12-4 aren't that different.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
Oh, for sure.
So those are sometimes the breaks.
Yeah, and then I find it interesting. Just go back. One of the things you guys talked about the red deck or the red green devotion deck that you guys played at this tournament. You know, felt like you guys were expecting a little more control. There was a little bit of a, you know, you don't know what the metagame is going to be when you go to the Pro Tour, so you do have to make a little bit of an educated guess. You guys thought there would be more control here?
Yeah, I think that was the kind of like the biggest problem that we ran into at this Pro Tour was that we thought there were going to be more Esper and blue-white decks because, you know, over the last couple Pro Tours, which very similar formats, block definitely, standard a little more different, but we expected there to be a lot of Sphinx Revelation Supreme Verdict decks, and our deck was very good against those decks, and they ended up being around 10% of the field, which is much less than we expected.
So if you look forward next couple weeks,
maybe next week to the Grand Prix in Louisville.
Yeah, next week to the Grand Prix in Louisville. Do you expect to see more of those control decks preying perhaps on some of the decks that have done well at this event?
Yeah, it's funny because I think that one of the best places to be right now is kind of like the mono green / red green deck that Mihara played, even though he did end up losing here in the semis. Sure. Because I think that deck is actually fairly decent against the mono blue deck, though I'd have to play more with the mono blue deck to be sure. If that's the case, I mean, Esper does seem good against that deck. It might be time for Esper to come back, but historically those decks are also underrepresented at Grand Prix, so I think you don't necessarily need to worry about any particular deck when you're trying to figure out what you want to play for those tournaments.
Still wide open enough to play something that you feel really comfortable with. And
yeah, I'd recommend something with Nixos, though. The card's pretty good.
Will we see some Channel Fireball members at Louisville at the GP next week?
Definitely. I don't think I will be there. But you know, the flights just didn't work out, and
Sure.
been here long enough that I need to put in some time at home. But there will be most of the team there. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We look forward to seeing them. Let's get down to the action because it's time for one of the really scary moments for the players. It's 2-2, and we're away with a Cloudfin Raptor from Pierre Dajon here in Game 5. This for a place in the Pro Tour final and a potentially life-changing match against Jeremy Desani. The Cloudfin Raptor immediately evolves thanks to Frostburn Weird. Dajon is on the play. Black, turn 2. He will run out Tidebinder Mage and get rid of, essentially, the Frostburn Weird. Back we go to Dajon. And Luis, is being on the play a big deal here?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. And it looks like Dajon's going to miss the turn 3 Night Veil Spectre, which is kind of what you want the most. But he's got a Cyclonic Rift at the very least in his hand, and he is ahead on the board slightly here, since having 1-drop in a 2-drop is better than the alternative.
And as you can see, his hand is actually quite good.
Ooh, double Master of Waves, double Cyclonic Rift. Yep.
And he has the Mutavault still to play. Does he have the 4th land still in his hand here?
Yes, he does.
His Cloudfin Raptor
I believe. Oh no, he does not. The Mutavault.
So
Mutavault's gone.
He's just looking to draw a land here. If he's able to hit the land this turn, then I think he's in pretty good shape. Otherwise, then missing for a turn is pretty huge here.
Are you gonna rift here, burn a rift and bounce something and slow down Sam?
I don't love rifting here as much because if you hit the land, you will wish you didn't rift. But if you hit the land, you're in good shape anyway. Problem is, there's not anything that you can rift here that's like super advantageous. I guess bouncing the Raptor is the best of the 3 targets.
And that is what he chooses to do. So Dajon untaps with his Cloudfin Raptor.
It looks like he drew the land. Now,
Yep, he certainly did. There it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quickly, Master of Waves. How many does that get him? Count up the blue mana. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Barely on our screen right now. Might shove those up in just a moment. Thank you so much. There we go.
Making them less messy.
Make them less messy. That's very thoughtful of you, Pierre. Thank you.
I don't think they're going to be around that long, Pierre. You may not want to bother. Let's
Yeah,
take a
Sam
look
does have a rapid hybridization.
Let's take a look at Sam's hand.
The problem for Sam here is that if he taps out for Master of Waves, then Pierre gets to play the 2nd Master, and that could lead to a big swing, though. Rapid hybridization in Sam's hand looks like it is joined by a 2nd copy. Sam also has Cyclonic Rift, so both players have a lot to play with here.
Bounce aplenty, like you say. Cloudfin Raptor, Master of Waves, double rapid hybridization, and that Cyclonic Rift. So the board looks overwhelmingly in favor of Pierre Dajon, but looks can be very deceiving.
The hands look like it favors Sam.
Yeah.
There's the Cloudfin Raptor.
So Sam's on the rapid hybridization plan. He's got no other permanents to play this turn, but he does have Cyclonic Rift and rapid hybridization as potential options.
That Frostburn Wig continues to stay tapped, of course, as Island joins Pierre's hand. And what looked like a pretty exciting start has kind of stalled somewhat.
Yeah, Pierre's still, I think, in decent shape here. He's got to decide whether he wants to play the second master. Playing the second master before attacking has some advantages. One of the prime ones is that he gets to evolve Cloudfin Raptor if things happen, but looks like he's just going to go for the attacks first. Sam doesn't actually have great blocks here either, though, so Sam's probably going to want to cast one of his spells.
He is. It's going to be rapid hybridization on the master.
Yeah.
That will evolve the Cloudfin Raptor, though, once he gets a token.
If he remembers.
Oh.
Looks like
I
not.
heard some other woes.
He's saying trigger, and there we go.
Okay.
He didn't do anything to indicate that he had passed.
Right, he has to actually yield priority.
Yeah. And now Sam, does Sam's bluff of Gainsay work? I think Pierre's got so little going on, like he only has Master and a Cyclonic Rift at this point, that I don't think he can afford to just not play the Master of Waves.
And he's going to be rewarded for being bold, isn't he? Because
He is.
Here it is. He's going to end up with a Master Waves back in his hand. Oh, or no, he just uses the Rapid Hybridization. Number 2.
All right, does not evolve this
Okay.
time.
No.
But those 2 tokens, I mean,
They're big.
they're big, and if he can hit 2 more land drops and play a Cyclonic Rift, then he could be in a pretty commanding position here.
Jace, Architect of Thought, has joined Black's hand. There you see it on the right of your screen.
So
6 guys and 2.
But
6 guys come along with the Master of Waves this time. Elementals everywhere.
So Sam's taking at least 3 points of damage here, though, from the Cloudfin Raptor. Oop, no, not that Frostburn Weird.
He's still tapped, right?
Yeah.
another interesting use for the sideboarded Triton tactics.
Yeah. Pierre also has the option of just bouncing the Master of Waves and attacking with the 3/3s.
That's what I was wondering about, yeah.
The problem with that is that Frostburn Weird just sitting there does get to block one of them for free. And the Mutavault coming and gets stopped by Sam's Cloudfin Raptor, so that doesn't work out quite so well. Also, if you Cyclonic Rift and then don't end up winning, then you've set yourself up for kind of a problem when the Master comes down the second time.
He did draw an Omen Speaker this turn. So do you
Well,
you know,
for sure you just cast that one first just to take a look at
and
what,
just see what your next 2 turns are going to be like? Or
yeah.
Things to think about. Puts them to one side. Let's see if we can get a look at what he's looking at. Well, whatever it is, he's decided they are both going away.
Thassa is one of the cards he really wants to draw here. Looks like he is going to go for the aggressive play, though.
Right.
I do like that, since Sam still has 2 more spells in hand, and Pierre's not really in a position to try to win the long game. Trying to wait till he hits 2 more land drops, I think, is just not that realistic.
He's really looking for a Thassa and then to be able to finish the game off.
Yeah, and this puts Sam down to 7 if Sam doesn't want to lose any creatures.
And also, if Pierre can get Sam down to a reasonably low life total, then potentially, if the game does go a little long, then the overloaded Cyclonic Rift he can get in with the last points of damage that way. So we see the blocks you'd kind of expect.
Yeah, so now Pierre can kill the Cloudfin Raptor, but I think that was a good block from Sam's part. Pierre's Cloudfin Raptor could go unopposed here for long enough. Sam does have a Cyclonic Rift, so Pierre really needs to draw he needs to basically hit his next 2 turns. If he hits his next 2 turns, he is slightly ahead here. He's ahead on life totals and the board. But soon he's not going to be ahead on the board, and soon Sam has enough good cards left in his hand that Pierre's thrown away 2 Cyclonic Rifts for board advantage, which is good if you can kill your opponent, but if you don't, you end up fairly behind.
And instead he chooses to Jace.
Yeah, Sam just wants to buy time here. And a Night Veil Spectre, not the worst draw. Cloudfin Raptor's up to just about its max. Thassa is the only card left that can... Jace making attacks fairly bad for Pierre here, so Sam's got to be feeling pretty good about this game. Pierre's living off the top of his deck at this point.
Raptor still gets to nibble.
Yep. And Night Veil is good. I mean, Night Veil is one of the better cards Pierre can draw. Sam's Master of Waves not being as relevant as they normally might be.
So Mutavault and maybe a Jace activation away from getting to Cyclonic Rift mana.
Yeah. But Sam's under some pressure just to cast it this turn, since if he doesn't cast it, even if he pluses Jace, he still ends up taking a good amount of damage. He still ends up taking like 4 damage here, and Pierre gets to take a peek at the top of Sam's deck. Looks like Sam's not minusing Jace, though.
Here comes the Master.
For a grand total of 7. So Sam just has to stay alive, cast Cyclonic Rift, and just try to attack for lethal. Pierre has to draw like a Ratchet Bomb, a Thassa, Cyclonic Rift, basically cards that do things, like not just a random creature.
Stuff.
Yeah, stuff and business. He's gone through both of his Cyclonic Rifts.
He did draw a Ratchet Bomb.
That was one of the cards he really wanted to draw. Since now he gets to hit Sam.
French top decks are pretty good these days.
Well, I mean, the side effect of the Ratchet Bomb is it does take away one of his
attackers.
One of his attackers, yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't even do anything, right?
As we hear Nassif.
Was that Nassif?
Could
Yeah.
say, that doesn't even do anything, right?
So I take 3.
And another Cloudfin Raptor. It's relevant.
Yeah, Cloudfin Raptor that's going to probably go back to Sam's hand next turn.
Yep.
That is true. I mean, Sam could miss on Jace here. Would be difficult, but
Sam is at
There's a
5.
Tidebinder Mage.
Nope, he
There's
did
a
not.
land. There's another
Land.
land. And
A Thassa.
So,
Sam's got to take the lands here.
which has got to be writing on the. Oh no. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, he does. I saw him shuffling them up like they were going on the bottom for a second. And like,
So there's the Cyclonic Rift.
The Ratchet Bomb makes this not lethal, though. It would have just been lethal. But Sam's still in very good shape here.
Sam about to get a lot higher in the top 25 Magic Pro rankings. 47% of the top 25 cashed at this event.
both of Sam's top 8s have come in playing mono blue decks.
Oh, indeed.
Slightly different.
Slightly
bents,
different strategies.
So Dajon, finally off the 20 life he's been on since the start of the game. What can he do here?
He's actually constrained on blue mana here, which is kind of funny given that he's a mono blue deck and has 5 lands in play. But he can't play like Tidebinder plus Night Veil Spectre. He can play Night Veil Spectre plus Cloudfin Raptor to try to get a couple flyers in play and grow his Cloudfin Raptor. But he's still, again, Cyclonic Rift is kind of a beating, and he's still pretty far behind here. So it looks like he's going to go for the Air Force, which I think is his best shot of winning here. This time actually locking down the Frostburn Weird, growing the Cloudfin Raptor, and getting a point in with the Mutavault.
Yeah.
Or 2 points in, because Sam did minus the Mutavault.
So Sam Black running out of life.
He really needs to draw a Bone Splitter here.
Yeah. He needs to draw Thassa. Thassa, I think, is one of his better draws at this point.
Black down to 3. Dajon of 15. Black with ammunition still.
Yeah, hitting the Cloudfin Raptor off the Night Veil Spectre was actually pretty bad for Pierre. Since without that Cloudfin Raptor, Sam would be in a lot more trouble, I think.
Wow. The business end of Game 5 of our second semi-final.
Night Veil Spectre.
Night Veil Spectre.
So get a Night Veil Spectre and an island.
Yeah, that seems like the split.
Sam adds land number 8.
And Sam is mutable to 3/3 in case that becomes relevant. Though I think Sam will be casting many spells this turn. So Pierre's actually kind of at the point where
He's just all in on getting a Thassa.
Yeah, Sam is at 3, so I think, yeah, stealing a game with a Thassa is his best route to victory at this point.
Pray to the gods.
So Sam actually does need to get aggressive here since he wants to try to end the game before that becomes a possibility.
Does Pierre block, just trade Tidebinder Mages and get his Frostborn weird unlock?
It's actually 7 damage.
No, he doesn't.
So now Sam will add significantly his Cloudfin Raptor, his Tidebinder Mage, his Night Veil Spectre,
All right.
and
is
now
this
Pierre Dajon.
Thassa, God of...
It looks like a Thassa, but that's not necessarily lethal in and of itself. So
he needs to have Thassa come into play as a creature for it to be lethal, right?
well, Pierre's at 9, so he needs to survive a turn. Because the Cloudfin Raptor is 1 power right now.
Right, but if he can play... Oh, yeah. He's not going to be able to play everything.
So let's see if he can marshal enough defense to stay alive.
Oh.
Because that's the next part of the equation. Omen Speaker comes into play, evolve the Cloudfin Raptor. Let's have a look with Scry.
There aren't too many cards that Pierre cares about hitting here. Since even if he evolves Cloudfin Raptor to 3, next turn Sam is going to get to plus the Jace, so he's got to play Thassa this turn. Grow the Raptor has 4 blockers. Sam can attack with... So
He can also grow the Raptor. Oh, here.
yeah, so
here comes that Thassa from the top of his deck.
All right, he's got the extra 2 blue pips from the Frostborn Weird.
no, that's Sam's, but he's got the 5 total. So
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah.
Pierre just needs to survive this turn and have Sam not hit a way to bounce or otherwise disrupt him.
So here we go. Sam Black had 2 islands in play.
Hit a Jace.
Yes, he did.
Could do the Jace. He could do the
Double Jace plus 1.
the double Jace +1 here.
Well, he's 1 short because Thassa is just going to attack for 5. But
Oh, yeah.
it's close. He's got to have to kill his own Jace to try to look for an answer here.
So
That's not it.
Gainsay.
That's
Night
not
Veil
it.
Naval Spectre.
Thassa.
Thassa.
Thassa still doesn't quite do it. I don't believe. Sam does not have 3 3-power creatures in play.
Is Pierre Dajon 2-0 up, back to 2-2.
Sam needs to hit his last Cyclonic Rift.
You play an Ennis turn? I have not played a land.
I think that's it because Sam has Rapid Hybridization actually doesn't do anything because Thassa's indestructible. So
Yeah.
he could potentially Rapid Hybridization one of Pierre's creatures during combat if Pierre doesn't play enough creatures pre-combat. But that's assuming he hits one of those things off his second Jace.
Huge moments now. Look at that board littered with permanents. They're all blue.
Do you remember the last time Sam was also in this position?
Yeah.
And he kept peering through depths.
Yeah, and casting
Pondering.
Ponders and Shuffles.
Ponders and shuffling and digging for the answer. Is he going to find the answer this
Great.
time?
But even if Thassa does get bounced, I guess it gets the Cloudfin Raptor actually could potentially be lethal, since Jace is not around to minus anymore.
Black deep in the end of hundreds, thousands of choices that he's made
Right.
over
now,
3 days.
Now he has to choose between Thassa and Night Veil Spectre and Gainsay. Those are his two piles.
So you can play Thassa. You can. Problem is Thassa and Mutable don't work that well together.
Right, four mana to get in an unblockable creature there.
One advantage to taking Gainsay here is that if he hits Cyclonic Rift off the second Jace, then he gets to Gainsay the Thassa when it comes back down. But at this point, he might, if he just bounces, actually, if he hits Cyclonic Rift, I think he just wins anyway, since I think he can bounce and then attack with 7 creatures into now just 1 creature. So it's basically going to come down to whether he can Jace
Here
into
it comes.
Cyclonic Rift.
There's Jace. Let's take a look.
There's a land.
Island. Master of Waves. Mutavault. What do you want, Sam? 2 island, 2 land, or do you want the Master?
So unless Pierre, I mean, Pierre could not block Night Veil Spectre here. I find that pretty hard to believe. He could take lethal from attackers. I also don't think that's incredibly likely.
Right, that's a 3/4 Cloudfin Raptor
Yeah.
that can just eat the Night Veil Spectre.
Is that the face of someone who knows the road is done? Sam Black staring at a board with so much complexity, so much interaction.
Yeah.
Well, again, with so much mana untapped and so still, 2 unknown cards in hand, is he, he can, maybe try, is being able to bluff your opponent. At some point, you're only out.
Yeah, the only problem here is that there's no bluffs that get him anywhere except for, again, Pierre letting Night Veil Spectre through or taking lethal. So, and he's certainly not going to take lethal, and I don't think he's going to let Night Veil Spectre through.
There is Thassa. There's another counter on Cloudfin Raptor. Whoever wins this, what a semi-final.
Land and spells on both sides of the table.
Yeah, and that Thassa just came at just the right time for Pierre there.
Pass the turn. Sam at 3.
Scry keep it, essentially.
Frostburn weird.
So Pierre knows that Sam doesn't have Cyclonic Rift. At this point, he could be potentially worried about rapid hybridization, but I suspect he's just... This is the point where, again, you line up all your ducks and you'd make sure that nothing could potentially go wrong.
I mean, this is where if you're going to have a hiccup, you're going to be scared.
Yeah.
Because you're up against a terrific player. There is so much on the line.
So he plays Frostborn Weird.
To play around Thassa losing Devotion.
It gives
Make them
Thassa-
unblockable, and Pierre Dajon of France means it will be an all-French Pro Tour final from 2-up to 2-all. And now Pierre Dajon takes it down by 3-2. And goodness gracious me, that is just outstanding magic. What a match that was. Whoa, just, guys, fantastic semi-final action there.
Yeah, tons of interaction, tons of choices. It's what you want to see from. We saw spells countered, we saw things bounced, we saw cards drawn. It's really blue at its finest.
Yeah, it's a really complex matchup until like Master or Thassa comes down and kind of cuts through the complexity at the end there.
Right.
Where all of it's a setup to the point where, I mean, Sam was at 3 only because Pierre made a lot of really aggressive plays and burned a Cyclonic Rift early. All that put together put him in a position to win.
Burnt a Cyclonic Rift on an unevolved.
1/2 Cloudfin Raptor.
Yeah, 1/2 Cloudfin Raptor.
And what that did is let him hit 3 times with his own Cloudfin Raptor.
Right, and I mean, to be fair, he got in more or less. I mean, he got in with 2 creatures there, but even if Sam had the bounce spell, he would have been able to win exactly.
Right.
Now, there's no pun intended here, genuinely. You think of board states generally as evolving. And one of the things that was noticeable there is that, yes, it goes a second creature, a third creature, a third creature, and then suddenly it's like, there's tons of permanents here. Then suddenly they're all gone. And suddenly now it's this huge threat over here. And now that's gone. And just the topsy-turviness of the board was what was so hard to keep track of. Because it wasn't just one extra permanent. We are going to get down to the next semi-final winner because it's all France all the time. Let's meet Pierre Dajon down on the floor with Rashad Miller.
Hi, I am Rashad Miller, and I am here with finalist Pierre Dajon. And Wow, that was a game there. Tell me what was going through your mind, because it was the last turn and you were just sitting there with your head on your hands in your head. What was going through your mind? What were you thinking of? Why, when did you think you actually had the game won?
The only time I was sure I was going to win the game when was I top deck the last island, because I needed to make sure I had devotion to attack before I declared 2 unblockable. Otherwise, he can just bounce my raptor and I don't win. But I was pretty confident, since if he had a bounce, he would very probably have just overloaded it and just kill me. So I was pretty sure I was going to win. But like, it's a tense game, so I can't be too sure. I'm supposed to know his sideboard, but you can still have surprise. So, well, things went my way, and I'm happy.
All right, so now we have an all-French finals. Tell me, how does that make you feel? A big pride for your country?
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. Like, first thing is, for a long time, France has been a good country at Magic, and like for the last 2 years, like we had bans, we didn't perform very well, and we were like off the map. And like last year, many French guys won GPs or top 80 GPs. Then we got the win at the Worlds, and now it's a French finals, and only French guys beating French guys in the top 8. Plus, I'm playing against a teammate, a guy I tested with for 2 weeks, so I feel like we did a good job. And yeah, I'm very happy for France, for my country, and like for the team, which also includes non-French guys.
Well, obviously, the best of luck to you in the finals. I'm Rashad Miller, and we're going to send it back to the booth.
Yes, he admitted that there were non-French guys in the team, and what he was too gallant to say was that, and none of them are in the top 8, and we are.
I thought that was fascinating. The card he really wanted to draw on that last turn was an island.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only card that could seal the deal for him. He didn't know Sam had nothing. He actually was going to win no matter what.
He was like, I thought Sam had nothing. But
yeah,
in case he had something, I really needed an island there to feel confident.
Right.
In the corner of my eye, I am looking at a screen you can't see, which is so many French people going absolutely nuts right now. Those two will be back for the final. Why don't we hand it over to the news desk to set up the final for you? Here's Marshall Sutcliffe.
Kill. Wow. A crazy match. Really back and forth.
Yeah.
We did not know who was going to win. There were times I thought Sam had it. There were times I thought Degas had it.
Yeah, it was really crazy. And it was insane to see how many permanents were on the battlefield. And, you know, I mentioned it to you, Zach. I said, this is the point where if I'm under those lights, I kind of freeze up. You know, it's like it's hard to process a lot of information. And at some point, you hit your limit. And that board state, I think it might have hit my limit. But so Pierre Dagen, he is into the finals. Let's take a look at the road to the finals here on our top 8 bracket. We've got Zach. Why don't you walk us through some of the decks that made it in here?
Yeah. So we see Dasani triumph over Camille Cornelison's mono red devotion deck. In the next round, we see Makihito Mahara defeat Paul Rietzel, a matchup that we, was a lot of anticipation around 2 potential future Hall of Famers.
Yeah, mono green versus white black.
Yeah, exactly. The mono green devotion, yet another devotion strategy doing very well today. We see Sam Black take down Kentaro Yamamoto's mono black devotion, featuring 4 gray merchant of Asphodel. And Pierre Dagen defeating Wafotapa's Esper Control, a matchup that was supposed to be pretty good against the mono blue deck due to 4 copies of Supreme Verdict, which of course kills all of the blue deck's creatures and can't be countered. Now, again, we see the trend, which is just nothing can stop this mono blue menace. We see Dasani take down Mahara in decisive fashion, and then the blue on blue mirror, we see Dagen win in 5. Really spelling the triumph for the French team's list. I mean, that has got to be unambiguously the best performing team here at Pro Tour Theros.
Yeah, it really does. And with that team comes the deck. Let's take a look at our player profiles for the finals. I want to get to know a little bit about who these 2 players are. We're going to start off with Pierre Dagen. He is 26 years old. He's from France, 26 lifetime pro points. You get a look at Pierre there. And, he's played, this is his 5th Pro Tour, and he's already scored a top 8.
Yeah, already got a top 8 out of 5 Pro Tours, top 8 out of Grand Prix Bochum. Pretty, reasonably experienced player. And I think you get a lot more experience playtesting with a squad like he is. I mean, the French team, all very good players, all veterans of the European GP circuit. Enough pro points to tell you they've been around the block a few times.
Right, now let's take a look at our other player in the finals here. This is going to be Jeremy Desani. Now, he's also kind of a young up-and-comer, also from France, so we have 2 French players in the finals. He's only 23 years old. He also has played 5 Pro Tours and now has a top 8 on his resume.
Yeah, and about 4 Grand Prix top 8s in a very short span of time, almost double the amount of pro points that Dejean has. I mean, again, this is someone I was looking into going into this event. Rich and I talked about it for a long time. I mean, those European Grand Prix are so challenging. I mean, 2,000 people semi-regularly. I mean, and to be able to consistently triumph at a tournament of that size, it's only a matter of time before you're on the Pro Tour. And again, both of these players playing almost exactly the same list. You have to say their preparation coming into this tournament was probably better than anybody's.
It does look like it. Now, I want to talk to you about the deck list. In a couple of minutes here, we're going to take a look at the sideboard specifically because that is going to be so important in the feature match area in the finals here from the Pro Tour. But let's take a look at the lists as they sit. Zach, what do you see as the main differences, and how do you make this matchup?
Well, this is a pretty easy question because there's only 2 differences. Desani has a disperse, where Dagon has a rapid hybridization.
Okay.
Rapid hybridization, incredible in this matchup because it can turn Master of Waves from, 10 power worth of creatures into 3.
Yes.
So I think, you have to give the edge to hybridization there. The second question is just the numbers of Bident of Thassa versus Jace Architect of Thought.
Yeah, this was an interesting decision that the teams had to make. We've seen different versions of this deck out in the field here throughout the course of the weekend, and there seemed to be kind of a dividing line between people that decided to play Jace. They had the reasons for it, and other people decided to play Bident. How did it break down for these 2 players?
Yeah, so Desani has 2 Jaces and 1 Bident. Pierre has 2 Bidents, 1 Jace.
Okay, so a slight difference there.
Yeah, I think that you have to give the pretty tremendous advantage at that point to Jace. One of the best cards in the mirror match because there's so many small creatures, and it cuts in half the power of Master of Waves while gaining you card advantage and digging through your threats and giving you some velocity. So I think having an extra Jace favors Desani. I definitely think having hybridization instead of disperse favors Pierre.
Okay.
But by and large, I mean, it's
we're talking about a
60
mirror
cards.
match here,
yeah,
right?
This
Okay.
is essentially the same exact list in the main deck.
Right. Now, so why don't we, so we have a full-on mirror match here, and one of the things that we always have to talk about, we bring it up every single Pro Tour because it's so important, is that here in the finals, and of course for the whole top 8 on Sunday, we're playing best, 3 out of 5.
Right.
You got to win 3 matches instead of just the normal 2.
Right.
And that puts a lot of pressure on another area of the deck when it comes to building, which is, of course, the sideboard.
Right.
So why don't we bring up Pierre Dagen's sideboard here and take a look at it and walk us through what Pierre's got in this matchup.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a lot of different ways you can board. I think the main issue is the 3 copies of Jace Architect of Thought. That allows him to go up to 4 Jaces after boarding, and we talked about how powerful that card was in this matchup. I think you probably want to bring in the 4th Mutavault because, again, you need to be able to threaten Jaces, and with Master of Waves being such an important card, obviously Mutavault size super relevant there, and just a 2/2. I mean, the creatures in this matchup not terribly large. A 2/2 can attack through all of those. I think you also probably want your Triton Tactics.
It's just a 1-of here in the corner.
Yeah, it's just a 1-of.
What does that do in the matchup?
Basically what it allows to, when all of you have the exact same creatures,
it
allows you for 1 mana to really swing tempo in your favor by generating either some trades or some card. Let's say, we both have 2 2/2s. If I untap both my 2/2s and block both of yours, then I've got 2 2/5s, you have 2 2/2s, and I just kill both your guys for a single mana. That's obviously really, really, really good.
Right, and in fact, we are actually in a mirror here, so this is a lot more likely to happen that we have the creatures of the exact same type on
like
both
literally
sides.
the same creature.
Right.
The final card I want to mention is Ratchet Bomb. I think Ratchet Bomb is very important in this matchup because if your opponent has Master of Waves and you don't, very challenging to win that game.
Okay.
Right, because I mean the wave tokens just represent 10, 12 power worth of damage.
With one card, by the way.
Exactly. Even though both of you are playing Master of Waves, having access to Ratchet Bomb means that you essentially get to reset your opponents and eventually draw your own.
That's right. Now let's take a look moving over to Jeremy Desani's sideboard here. Now, how much different is this? I mean, we noticed that there were only a couple of cards off in the main. Is that the same thing? Is the same thing true in the sideboard?
Basically, in the sideboard, he only has 2 Jace Architect of Thought because he's main decking the second copy. I don't know if you bring in Jace Memory Adept in this matchup. If you do, Desani doesn't have it. Pierre does.
Okay.
That could potentially matter. What he does have, again, I don't know if you bring it in, is 2 copies of Aetherling.
That seems like a big swing spell.
Well, on the Team Star City games list that has access to Nykthos, I can see it being really, really, really powerful. This matchup, though, as we heard in the booth, is very dependent on who's on the play, very tempo intensive. I don't know if you have a chance to get to 6 mana, untap, and then use it. On the other hand, if the matchup sometimes tends to slow down and you trade a lot, then I could see Aetherling being a great way to shore up the late game, but not having played that much of this mirror, I don't actually know whether that's a card that matters or not. You still, I think, want all your Jaces, you still want Triton Tactics, you still want Ratchet Bomb, and you probably want Mutavault. But because I think what you're taking out are cards like Judge's Familiar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What are the cards that are much less effective in the mirror that are already in the main deck?
I'm not very excited about Bident of Thassa because again, all of you kind of have the same creatures, and it's hard to get ahead on tempo. Your evasion doesn't really capitalize on anything there. Judge's Familiar doesn't have a terribly relevant ability except against Cyclonic Rift. But until then, the body is too small to really matter. Omen Speaker, I think, is kind of fine. I think it's good in that, like, it draws you to the cards that you actually care about, which are your Master of Waves and your Jaces, and it fixes your mana a little bit, so I could see having it in, but it's not super exciting. So I definitely think you side out the Bident, Judge's Familiar, and Disperse. You might trim some numbers here and there. I mean, I saw both players leaving in Tidebinder Mage. It's kind of nice that it taps down Frostburn Weird. And it gives you 2 blue mana symbols, so you probably want it in, even though it's not, against red or green.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that because these are, of course, devotion decks. This is sort of the key word for the whole weekend as you keep talking about devotion, and these are the blue version of the devotion deck. And I mean, something's got to give, right? You can't just pull out all of the things that you have that actually build that devotion, or else it turns off a bunch of other cards.
Completely. And again, I mean, there is always the upside of you just being able to tap down a Frostburn Weird, which is obviously incredible if you get to that point.
That's right. Now, one of the cards that that I see both players have 2 of in the main, I believe, Cyclonic Rift, a card that it's obviously powerful, right? Like when I first saw it, I remember I was thinking, wow, that card does so much, and it's also versatile as well, but it hasn't really made a big splash in Standard. But I do see, here we are in the finals of the Pro Tour, and both decks have 2 copies each. How important is that card going to be in the mirror?
Oh, I think it's one of the most important cards in the mirror. Again, because if both your opponent, you and your opponent draw essentially the same spells, it's going to be really hard to get an advantage on tempo. But if you just tap 7 and make your opponent pick up all of his permanents, obviously you can attack for a lot of damage there. That's the other reason I really like bringing in Mutavault from both of these players, because you're going to want to hit your land drops every turn so that you can actually eventually overload your Cyclonic Rifts. That also helps you get to 4 for Jace Architect of Thought and Master of Ways, which are probably, besides Thassa, the actual most important cards in this matchup.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What are the main cards? I mean, what are the things that we're going to see that are going to break the game open? We just mentioned Cyclonic Rift as being potentially one of them. What are the other cards?
Yeah, I mean, Thassa God of the Sea is huge. I mean, it's literally huge.
Yes.
It's a 5/5 creature for 3, and the unblockability, we've seen matter in basically every single blue mirror we've watched on camera.
Yes.
Just the fact that it doesn't matter how many blockers your opponent has, the ability to get through always is so important. The other thing is both these players had 4 copies of Night Veil Spectre.
Yeah, how important is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible because in a mirror match like this, it's literally just like drawing a card.
Yeah, because you can cast anything that you can get off of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're able to make that unblockable with Jace, get past your opponent's Cloudfin Raptors, get past your opponent's Night Veil Specters, that can start getting you ahead on cards, which both draws you to the things that matter, like Master of Waves, and gives you the mana you need to cast them. So I think Night Veil advantage, very important in this matchup. The downside for the players being there's not really a way to get it other than hoping that your draw is very good. A thing that players could do is bring in some number of negates, which could deal with the Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah, because that's a trump card for Cyclonic Rift,
but
which
it's
is
so
huge.
bad against everything else except Jace, and you're trying to tap out a lot, that's kind of a high-risk, high-reward situation. I don't really know what the correct call is there.
Right, you'd have to do what these players clearly have done, which is grind out a bunch of games and get to some type of conclusion about what needs to happen for the mirror. And I mean, it's probably natural. You've been in a lot of testing teams. You know, it's hard to say, I think, when you're in the test portion. Like, they found this deck. This deck did not exist until this weekend, right? And they probably didn't know if they were the only ones on it. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I think you can assume if you found something really good, you know some other number of players are going to play it.
Okay.
The question is how many. I mean, I remember at Pro Tour Berlin, we got Elves early on, we got Mirror Entity, but we thought we kind of had like the secret deck. And it turned out everyone at that tournament thought that they had the secret deck.
Is that right?
So sometimes, so sometimes you might be like, oh, I've got this mono blue list.
Yeah.
Nobody's
going to
about
see it coming. Right. So how much time do you think, you know, if you had that mentality, how much time would you actually spend, you know, testing the mirror match? Or is it just something natural that happens because, well, I'm playing it and you're playing it, so let's play?
I think basically every team, and I know this is certainly true of me back when I was playing at these things, kind of under-tested the mirror.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, now we saw 3 copies of Gainsay out of the Star City list, so that to me suggests they clearly tested a decent amount of mirror matchups.
Probably the most experienced team of all the whole field, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they're up there.
You got a lot of Hall of Famers in that field.
Right.
But, you know, I don't want to say anything about the quality of the French team's testing, too, because I just don't know.
Oh, yeah,
it would totally be believable. I mean, I don't know if Gainsay is the best card in the mirror. I could see Ratchet Bomb being super important, which Team Star City didn't have. So, I mean, I think any time that you have a deck that is as good and as dominant as the mono blue deck has been today, you're going to try and figure out what your plan for other decks like it is.
Okay. Jace, you mentioned that it was one of the key cards that you were going to be keeping an eye on. What is its role in this matchup? Is it normally +1 defensive Jace, or is it card advantage?
I think it depends on whether you're winning or losing.
Okay.
I think if the board's at parity and you're in danger of starting to fall behind, the +1 ability is incredible because, again, this is a matchup about a lot of little creatures. I think that if you're ahead, you just need cards. You want to press that advantage.
Yeah.
And, again, it gives you the lands and digs to your Thasses and your Masters of Waves and your Cyclonic Rifts.
Okay. It's time. We have reached the end of the tournament here. It is time for the finals from Pro Tour Theros. I know I'm excited. This is going to be a crazy match to watch. A lot of tempo plays. A lot of stuff is going to be on the table very, very quickly. Let's go down to the booth where Luis Scott Vargas, Brian David Marshall, and Rich Hagan await for the finals here from Pro Tour Theros.